So during this Christmas season, and it's still the octave of Christmas, right, that we're celebrating, I think one of the things we think about a lot is the Incarnation and how it works for God to be both God and man, for Jesus to be both God and man. And one of the things that I found that I've gotten questions on a lot, very, very often, and people have a hard time understanding, and even had clergy that say that they don't really understand this, is how can God be both changeless and also become man? Doesn't him becoming man give him something he didn't have before? Doesn't it change him in some way? And I understand, wow, that does seem like a very difficult thing. And one way that I ordinarily try to explain it is say, well, God doesn't change, but creation's relationship to him changes in the Incarnation. So it's like if an author puts himself in the story, then he doesn't change, but the whole story's relationship to him changes, right? So if he dies in the story, that doesn't affect the author, but it does affect all the people in the story, how they relate to the author. So that's one way to think about it. But there's another way that I find very, very interesting that recently I came across that might be helpful to some people, because remember, God is outside of time. He's in the eternal now. He has the fullness of being. He doesn't, so in time, parts of us are passing away and we're getting new parts of us because we're incomplete beings, but he's not incomplete. We're finite. We're losing part of ourselves and gaining part of ourselves, but he has all of himself at all the time. So another way to think about, well, God doesn't change is he always had a human nature in one sense, because he was always present and is still present at the Incarnation from all eternity. He was always present and is still present at every moment in your life. He had all those moments at the same time because he's outside of time. So he had the fullness of all that. So he always, in a sense, had human nature, because there's no time for him. There's time for us. He was incarnate in our time at a certain time. But for him, he always had all that. As soon as creation was created, as soon as time was created, he had all that. So that's another way to think about that. Why is this important? It's so important that God is changeless, because that means his love for us and his option for us, where he chooses us. God chooses us. We don't choose him. Well, hopefully we do choose him, but he chooses us first. That's what's important. That is rock solid, changeless. It cannot change. That's how strong his love is that there's no change in him. So I find that very, very important, and maybe those thoughts will help you during this Christmas season. Merry Christmas.